Today we're going to be painting this scene with these two cats sitting in this tree at night in the winter. Alternatively, you can also paint this not in a winter scene using slightly different colors. The colors you're going to need to do this version are going to be black, white, and red. The brushes I'm going to use today, a number 2 round and a number 6 bright. You can use any small round brush and any wide flat brush. This painting does not have a traceable, so we're just gonna get right into it. I'm going to get my brush damp, and I'm going to be starting with the black paint and the white paint. I'm going to grab the white paint and I'm going to paint a circle in the middle of my canvas. And I'm going to grab a little bit of black on my brush, and I'm going to go around the edge of my circle, and I'm going to work my way out. I'm not going to come inside my circle too much yet. I'm going to come back to it. I'm going to grab a little bit more black, and you're going to just gradually work your way outward from the center. Don't worry if it looks messy at first, because we're going to grab some more white here in a minute. I just need to get this started. Because we don't want our sky to get completely black. We need it to fade to a very dark gray because we're going to be putting a black tree in it, and we don't want our tree to disappear. I'm going to get my brush a little bit more damp again, and I'm going to go back and I'm going to grab some white, and I'm going to come back to the closer to the center. I'm going to work my way back to the center. We want this to fade gradually from that white. So I'm just going to work some white back into this black paint right here. And I just keep turning my brush in a circular motion, always with the wide side going around and not the skinny side right now. And you want to make sure that you keep having a damp brush while you're doing this so that your paint moves nice and smoothly. I'm going to come back to the center now, and I'm going to get my brush completely clean so that I don't turn the center a really dark gray. I'm going to grab white again and come back to the center, and I'm going to add some of this back in here. I want the center to be pretty bright, so you don't want to get it too dark. And you're just going to work that white back out around again. And you want it to be fading into your black, so it will start to turn gray. And I'm going to start adding some black again, and I'm going to keep on working all the way out to the outside edge of my canvas. And you just want to keep on working in that white until it fades really nicely. And just make sure that once you get to the outside of your canvas that it's a dark gray and not black. This particular painting, I'm going to not paint the edges. I'm going to give you guys another option to paint your edges that is not painting them with the canvas. However, if you want to continue this round motion around your edges, you can also do that. But for this one, I'm going to wait until the very end and I'm going to paint the edges of my canvas all black so that you can see a different option for painting the edges of your canvases. Now, if you are doing a version that is not this winter scene, what you're going to do is you're going to use a really dark ultramarine blue and white, and you're going to paint your background the same way, but with that blue instead of black for your background, unless you still want a black sky. Now that I have all of this in here, you'll notice that I have some streaky areas that come out around my moon. I'm going to go back and I'm going to grab a little bit of white, and this time I'm going to use the skinny side of my brush to go around instead of the fat side. This is totally optional, you do not have to do this part, but I just like coming around here and just adding a few of these around my moon. Like that. I'm going to clean up my brush, and I am all done with this brush for the rest of the painting. I'm going to dry my canvas before I put anything else on, and I will be back once it's dry. Now that my painting's dry, we're going to add the tree next. My painting's dry, and now we're going to add in our tree. We're going to be using our round brush. I'm going to get it damp, get off the extra water, and we're going to be using black paint. If you're doing the version that is not in the winter, you can do a brown tree instead of a black tree, but we're going to be using black paint for this one. You're going to come down here to the bottom right-hand corner, and we're going to start by putting the main part of the tree coming up. So I'm going to take my brush over here, and I'm going to curve it around, and I'm going to bring it straight up. You might have to keep on grabbing some more black paint. And this does not have to be perfectly even, because this is just a really skinny line we're using to get the base of our tree in. All right, that's going to be where our tree is going to start. I'm going to thicken it out a little bit before I move on. So I'm just going to come right next to it. And remember that the bottom of a tree is always wider than the top. So you want to start a little bit wider and taper off into a smaller area. This one isn't going to get super skinny at the top, but it's going to be skinnier than where it starts. And we're just going to add a parallel line coming all the way up our tree, and this is going to make our trunk. Like that. You don't have to fill it in yet. I want you to come over here to the right, and we're going to add a branch around the middle coming off to the side, and branches also start a little bit wider and taper off. And all of your branches are going to be skinnier than the trunk of your tree, because trees don't grow branches that are thicker than the trunk. So I'm going to add a branch over here around the middle, and I'm going to draw another I'm going to paint another parallel line right next to it. And that's going to be the thickness of that entire branch. I'm going to come up and I'm going to add another one right here. Now I want the top of this tree to look like this is not the very tippy top of the tree. And we're going to do that by adding a few branching branches right there. So on the left-hand side, we're going to come down a little bit and I'm going to make a Y off of the tree coming this direction like that. And this one I want to be close to the thickness of the tree because it's still part of the main part of the tree. I'm going to paint a parallel line right there. And I'm going to put another one up here at the top, and I'm going to come in between this Y and I'm going to put this one coming up in this direction. You don't have to worry just now about which one is overlapping each other because we're going to be painting the whole tree black. Around here in the middle, we're going to make another branch that branches all the way across the top, and we're going to have a long branch on the top and the bottom of our cats to kind of frame them into our painting. So right here around the middle, we're going to take this branch and we're going to bring it up and over. Now this part is where we're exaggerating a little bit in our painting because a tree would normally have a really long branch like this. But we're doing this just for the sake of framing in our painting. And we're going to make another parallel line right on top of this. You still have to taper off at the end. So don't make your tree too fat or too skinny on either side. If you've made a mistake, what you can do is you can go back and make the trunk of your tree a little bit thicker and then fix the tapering on your branches. We're going to add a few Ys onto this top branch so it doesn't look so sticky. Sticky as in tree sticks, not sticky as in touching sticky gum. We're going to put a Y around here. And we'll come further down our branch and we'll make another one. And try to remember that your branches on most trees, don't grow towards the ground. They grow outward and upward. And I'm going to come over here to the end and I'm going to put a few here on the end to make it a little bit interesting over here. So I'm just going to add some Ys. That'll be branches over here. And they're going to be pretty skinny on the end. All right, so that's our top branch, and I'm going to come to the bottom and I'm going to add the main branch that our cats are going to be sitting on. So I'm going to come down a little bit lower and I'm going to draw a line that comes across. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight because it's a tree branch. And it's going to come up just a little tiny bit, like so. I'm going to draw a parallel line for that one. And we're going to add a few extra branches onto that as well so that it doesn't look so basic. I'm going to start over here on the end and I'm going to add a Y onto this guy. And I'm going to put another Y down here. I'm going to come around, not quite in the middle because our cat's tails are going to droop down here. I'm going to come a little bit more to the right, and I'm going to add another branch over here. I'm going to put one Y on him too. That's going to be the basic shape of our tree. So right now what I want you to do is I want you to go and fill your entire tree in black. If you were painting the other version of this tree with the brown, you can go and fill it in brown, but you get the point. So I'm going to speed this up while I fill in my tree. My tree is completely filled in now. I'm going to be adding the snow on top of the branches. We're still going to be using our round brush. Whenever you paint snow, I want you to imagine how snow would actually collect on a tree as it falls. So you know that it's always going to fall on surfaces that are very horizontal. It's going to kind of fall on surfaces that are a little bit diagonal, and it's not usually going to fall on surfaces that are vertical unless the wind is blowing. For this one, our snow is going to be peacefully falling, so we're not going to have any that's really sticking to any vertical spaces. So I'm going to go around first and I'm going to find all of my horizontal areas and I'm going to add snow to those. When you add snow, you're going to use the tippy toes of your brush and just lightly dust it on the tops of your branches. And you can overlap the black a little bit. You don't have to have it all sitting completely on top of your branches because it just could have been a light dusting that just wrapped around the tops of your branches. I'm also going to hit some of my horizontal spaces while I'm over here. And snow doesn't fall perfectly whenever it falls, so you can have some gaps in where your snow falls and it doesn't have to be even. So some spaces can just have a really light dusting. All right, I've added all of my snow on my trees. Now, if you're doing a version that is not a winter version, you can use some of this paint at this time to add in some of the stars while we're adding in snowflakes, but we're going to be doing snowflakes on this one. So I want you to flip your brush around to the end and I want you to dip it in that white paint and you're going to go around and add snowflakes. next thing we're going to do is we're going to add some more smaller snowflakes. This one was done using a denture brush and flicking it on. That is an option because I don't want to assume that everybody has extra toothbrushes laying around their house to do the background. I'm going to show you an alternative way. It just takes a little bit longer. If you like the way that yours looks with just these big snowflakes, you can just leave it like this and not do the smaller ones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my canvas and I'm going to lay it flat. There are a few different ways you can get some soupy white paint. All I did is I mixed a bunch of water with some of this white paint because you want it a lot more flowing than the paint that we're using to paint with so far. So I've mixed quite a bit of water with some of that white paint so that it is a lot thinner. I'm going to be using my flat brush to tap this brush onto. You can also tap it on your finger if you only have one brush. I'm going to load my round brush with white paint. I'm going to hold my brush like this so that it's kind of like holding a stick, and I'm going to hold this brush and I'm going to stabilize it on my canvas. I'm going to go around and I'm just going to tap around my painting. And you might need to get some more paint. Going to make some smaller snowflakes. Alright, so now I have splattered on my snow. I've cleaned up my mess from doing that. I'm going to dry it before I put my cats on it. Alright, our painting is now dry. We're going to add our cat. So using our round brush, you're going to grab some black paint. So I know that I want one cat right here around the center of my branch. So I'm just going to draw a straight line right there. And I know that I want a smaller one next to it. And I want it to curve towards it a little bit. So I'm going to come over here and I'm just going to curve this one a little bit like that. Now I'm going to put in the bodies of my cats. This one you're going to start with the top. You want a slightly skinnier neck and it's going to come out into a teardrop shape. So you're just going to make a big teardrop. Now this one is curved a little bit, so your teardrop is going to have a slight curve in it when it comes back up. He's going to curve out and around like that. I'm going to go ahead and fill them in with black paint. Perfect. Now we're going to add the heads onto them. You can make them big heads if you want to. I'm going to make them slightly proportionate to our bodies, as proportionate as you can be anyways. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to add a circle to the top of my teardrop. It can overlap the neck a little bit. And I'm going to add a head to this guy. And I want them to be leaning towards each other. So So this head is going to touch this head. Next, we're going to add their tails and just go ahead and get them in. I like the tails to be kind of connecting into each other. So I'm going to start with the bottom of this cat and I'm going to come in and down towards this cat. It's gonna fill it in a little bit better. I'm using the tippy toes of my brush because I don't want really thick tails, but you can have thick bushy tails if you would rather have those. And I'm going to come over to this cat and I'm going to do another one, but this one's going to cross the other way. Now I'm going to add the ears onto my cats. I'm going to come over to this one. He's sitting upright, so my ears are going to be near the top of this cat. This cat is turning sideways, so his ears are going to be going this direction. It's okay if they overlap, but I still paint them entirely to make sure that I'm painting them the way that they would be if you could see all of the details on the cat. There we go. I'm actually gonna turn this ear out a little bit so you can see more of a point on it. Okay, now we're going to add the legs onto our cats. When cats sit, they have kind of a boat shape on their back legs. So we're going to just add little oval-like shapes where their tails and their backs are. And they're just gonna stick out just a little bit. Now we're gonna add the whiskers. I'm just gonna put 3 whiskers on each one. And we're looking at the back of the cat. So you won't actually see where they attach to the face. And I just start on the face and then flick my brush outward. Now our cats have whiskers. Now we're going to add the hat and the scarf, and that will be the last step of this painting. Now our painting is pretty dark, and red is really transparent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a layer of white paint on our canvas first, and I'm just going to paint in the general area where our scarf and our hat are going to be. So our hat is going to be crooked on top of his head. You're going to have the brim of the hat right here. It's okay if it mixes a little bit with your gray paint, because this is just the first layer. We're gonna paint where the brim of our hat would be. And the hat cone comes out to here. And this Santa hat droops all the way down past our branch. So you're gonna come to the top of this cone and you're just going to make a line that droops all the way down to here. And you can just thicken it out just a little bit at the top and taper it down. And you're gonna paint a little ball on the end of it. And I don't like mine to be perfectly round. You're gonna come to the other cat and put a scarf on him. You're just going to paint a little area right here on his neck. It's probably gonna blend in with your moon if your cat is near where mine is. You're gonna paint a long area on this side. And a shorter one on this side. And you're gonna paint little poof balls on the ends of these too. And I want you to go ahead and draw your painting. Next, you're going to take your red and you're going to start layering up red where your hat and scarf are red. This might take a few layers to get it where you need it to be. All you'll have to do to get layers is to go over it once, dry it, and then put another layer. I've dried my first layer, I'm gonna put my second layer on. Alright, I've added the second layer. You might be thinking it looks a little flat, and that's okay, because we're gonna add a little bit more detail to it to make it look not flat. I want you to grab a little bit of your black paint, and I want you to come up to where your hat folds right here, and you're going to take this black paint right where it folds, and you're just going to come up just a little bit. And right underneath it, we're just going to add a little shadow. So you want this paint to mix with your red just a little bit, and mine is pretty solid black, so I'm just going to clean out my brush and go back to my red. And I'm going to work my red back in the other direction, right underneath it, and they're just going to blend together just a little tiny bit. And we're just adding a little shadow underneath our hat. I'm going to take that red black and I'm just going to come along my hat, and I'm just going to add a few little dark lines along the edges of my hat. I'm going to clean up my brush, and I'm going to grab some white, and we're just going to add a small shine to the top of our hat. Right here, using the tippy toes of our brush, and right here, and one along the bottom, right there. I'm going to add some more white to this little poofy area to make sure that it comes back. If you want it to look a little bit more dimensional, you can add a little bit of black to this little poofy white part on the white hat too. Tap it in there. And you can do the same with the little one down here on the end. I'm going to do a similar thing with the scarf on the poofy balls on the ends of it. Just come back and add more to those. And the white scarf, I like to add some polka dots to it. Right here where it folds over, I'm just going to define where that one folds over that one, and I'm just going to add some polka dots to this scarf. Now the final thing we're going to do with this painting is we're going to paint the edges like I said we're going to at the end. I'm going to grab my flat brush that we're using, or bright. I'm going to get it damp. You can go around your edges with other colors other than black, but I'm just going to take some black. I'm going to come to the edge of my canvas and I'm just going to paint black all along the edge of my canvas, and I'm going to go over the edge just a little bit. And I like to have it looking like it has a rough edge where it comes over the canvas. So it looks kind of like a messy border. You can see that I'm just painting the edge. I'm going to turn it sideways. I'm going to have to dry the sides before I can completely turn it around and paint all the sides. Now I'm going to dry it so I can paint the last side. You can see that we've added the border now, It comes over the edges just a little bit and it looks kind of messy. I like the way that it looks like that. But that is an alternative way to paint your borders if you have a difficult time painting around your canvas and onto the borders as well. That's all there is to this painting. I hope that you really enjoyed this one. I know that I did, and I will catch you in the next one.